Have you ever wondered why men, despite all their strength and outward confidence, often feel unseen, misunderstood, and even powerless in the most intimate parts of their lives? What if I told you there is a hidden pleasure spot, a truth about the male psyche that women rarely recognize and even most men themselves ignore? This is not about biology. It's about psychology, and the one who uncovered its essence was none other than Carl Jung.
So let me ask you this. Where does a man truly feel pleasure? Is it just in the body, or is it in the recognition of his soul? Jung argued that the deepest human drives aren't just physical, they are archetypal, rooted in symbols, myths, and the unconscious. For men, that secret spot of pleasure lies in something far beyond the surface. It lies in being seen, respected, and affirmed at the level of his very being.
Carl Jung spoke of the anima and the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that shape our desires and relationships. For men, the anima represents the inner feminine, the longing to be understood, nurtured, and mirrored. Yet society teaches men to bury this truth. They're told, be strong, be stoic, don't show need, don't show weakness. And so what happens? Men stop revealing where they actually crave intimacy. They hide the truth that their deepest pleasure comes not from conquest, but from recognition. Recognition of what? Recognition of their inner worth. The validation that says, I see you, I respect you, I admire you. This is the hidden spot of male pleasure, not just skin deep, but soul deep.
Here's the tragedy. Most women never notice this. They chase after the superficial, the compliments, the flowers, the gestures, while ignoring the deeper structure of male psychology. They think men want only physical release. But what a man truly longs for is a woman who can touch his psyche. Because when a man feels unseen, when his inner world is neglected, he becomes restless, resentful, even destructive. He withdraws, he grows cold, he either numbs himself or he seeks validation elsewhere. And here lies the danger. When women don't recognize this inner spot, society fills the gap with manipulation, social media, shallow attraction, power games. The man's deepest longing is weaponized against him. Here's the tragedy. Most women never notice this. They chase after the superficial, the compliments, the flowers, the gestures, while ignoring the deeper structure of male psychology. They think men want only physical release. But what a man truly longs for is a woman who can touch his psyche. Because when a man feels unseen, when his inner world is neglected, he becomes restless, resentful, even destructive. He withdraws, he grows cold. He either numbs himself or he seeks validation elsewhere. And here lies the danger. When women don't recognize this inner spot, society fills the gap with manipulation, social media, shallow attraction, power games. The man's deepest longing is weaponized against him. So remember this. The number one male pleasure spot is not in the flesh, but in the psyche. It is in the rare, profound moment when a man feels truly seen, respected, and admired. Carl Jung revealed it more than a century ago. Yet today, most women still have no idea. And now, we'll explore why society hides this truth, how resentment and power games twist male desire, and how Jung's psychology exposes the hidden chains that keep men misunderstood. We uncover that the hidden male pleasure spot is not physical at all. It lies in being seen, respected, and affirmed. But here's the question. If this is so powerful, so central to the male psyche, then why is it ignored? Why is it hidden from men themselves?
The answer is unsettling. Society doesn't want men to know this truth, because the moment a man discovers it, he becomes independent. He no longer begs for validation. He no longer submits to shallow approval. And that terrifies those who feed on his weakness. Jung believed that most people live as masks, what he called the persona. It is the version of ourselves that society trains us to play. For men, the persona is simple. Be strong, be useful, don't question, keep providing. But behind the mask burns a hidden frustration, because the deeper need of the psyche remains unmet. And here we bring in a darker layer. Jung spoke of the shadow, and Nietzsche spoke of resentment. Together, these explain why men stay trapped. The shadow is the part of the man he doesn't want to admit, the longing for respect, the hunger for admiration, the ache for intimacy. Instead of facing it, he buries it. He pretends it doesn't exist. But what happens to buried truths? They come back twisted. Nietzsche's resentment explains this twist. When a man feels unseen for too long, when his deepest pleasure is denied, he doesn't admit it. Instead, he resents. He builds silent anger. And then he flips morality upside down. He tells himself, I don't need respect. I don't need intimacy. I don't need to be seen. But deep down, the hunger remains. This is why so many men turn bitter, why they numb themselves with distractions, addictions, or anger, why they lash out or collapse inward.
Now, why don't women recognize this truth? Because they've been told a different story. They're taught that men are simple, that male pleasure is only physical. They're taught that power lies in withholding attention, in controlling validation. And so, without even realizing it, many women exploit this hidden spot. They dangle admiration like bait. They give just enough recognition to keep a man chasing, but never enough to truly satisfy his soul. And the result? Men stay trapped in cycles of need, blind obedience, and quiet despair.
Now, why don't women recognize this truth? Because they've been told a different story. They're taught that men are simple, that male pleasure is only physical. They're taught that power lies in withholding attention, in controlling validation. And so, without even realizing it, many women exploit this hidden spot. They dangle admiration like bait. They give just enough recognition to keep a man chasing, but never enough to truly satisfy his soul. And the result? Men stay trapped in cycles of need, blind obedience, and quiet despair.
So let me ask you again. What happens to a society where men never discover their true pleasure spot? Where they never realize that it lies in the psyche, not in approval from others? It becomes a society of weak men begging for recognition. It becomes a society where manipulation thrives. And it becomes a society where both men and women suffer, because relationships lose depth, intimacy collapses, and respect becomes just another tool of control. Carl Jung believed that individuation, the process of uncovering the hidden self, was the only way out. A man who sees his own worth no longer bows to manipulation. He no longer chases breadcrumbs of admiration. Instead, he commands respect by embodying it. Now, we'll go even further. We'll expose how men can break free from this hidden trap, how Jung's psychology offers a path to inner sovereignty,
and why discovering this truth makes a man not only powerful, but untouchable. So far, we've uncovered the secret male pleasure spot, not in the body, but in the psyche. We've seen how society manipulates it. We've seen how men, unaware of this truth, become slaves to recognition, chasing women, leaders, even systems that exploit their deepest need. But the final question remains: how does a man break free? Carl Jung gave us the answer: individuation, the process of becoming whole. It means facing the shadow, admitting the hunger for respect, intimacy, and recognition instead of denying it. Because denial creates resentment, but acceptance creates transformation. When a man acknowledges, "Yes, I long to be seen. Yes, I crave recognition. Yes, I want admiration," he takes the first step out of slavery. Why? Because by admitting it, he no longer hides it in the dark where others can manipulate it. You cannot be controlled by a weakness you've already faced.
The second step is even more powerful. Instead of demanding recognition from the outside, a man learns to generate it within. This is where Jung's idea of the self comes in, the archetype of wholeness, where opposites are integrated. When a man connects with his deeper self, he no longer depends on the external world for validation. He realizes, my worth does not come from her approval. My strength does not come from their recognition. It comes from within me. This shift is the true awakening. It turns the male pleasure spot from a point of vulnerability into a source of unstoppable power. Think about it. A man who no longer craves external recognition cannot be manipulated by media. He cannot be seduced by corrupt leaders. He cannot be enslaved by shallow relationships. Because what can you offer to a man who already sees himself? What can you threaten to take away when his deepest pleasure is already fulfilled from within? This is why Jung's psychology is so dangerous to the system. It creates men who are untouchable, men who are calm, sovereign, and magnetic. Not because they beg for attention, but because they radiate strength and mystery. And women sense it instantly. The man who has found his own worth doesn't chase, he attracts. He doesn't explain, he embodies. He doesn't demand, he commands.
Now imagine what happens if thousands of men awaken to this truth. If men everywhere stopped begging for recognition and instead reclaimed the hidden pleasure spot as their own source of power. Relationships would change, society would change, and the corrupt would lose their grip. Because their power depends on men's blindness. And once that blindness is shattered, everything changes. So let me leave you with this final truth. The number one male pleasure spot women don't know about is not in the body at all. It is in the recognition of the self, the psyche, the soul, the inner being. Carl Jung revealed it. Society buried it. But if you awaken to it, you become sovereign. You become unshakable. You become a man no one can manipulate. And that is the deepest pleasure of all.